Hi, I'm Sara Byers, Assistant Curator with the City of Niagara Falls Museums. And welcome to tonight's presentation, which is a behind-the-scenes tour of the Niagara Falls History Museum. In this presentation, we'll explore the artifact storage room and get hands-on with the museum collection. We'll understand how artifacts are brought into the museum collection, and we'll learn stories behind some of the new and the rarely seen artifacts. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge that we're located on the shared territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Chinootan people. The Chinootan people have called these lands home for thousands of years, and more recently, the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee have been sharing the land as one dish, one spoon treaty territory. I'm happy that you've joined the program, and I'm excited to get started. In our last program, I described the decision-making process to bring artifacts into the museum collection. So after the decision is made, what happens next? Well, it involves a lot of paperwork and data entry, which might not sound too exciting at first, but if you're into history like I am, and you appreciate how special it can be to hold a piece of history in your hands, spending time with the objects of history and discovering all their secrets is, I think, the best part of being at a museum. So step by step, number one, I check the paperwork that the museum have signed with the artifact donor and make sure that it's complete and that the museum has assumed ownership of the object. I also grab any provenance from the form that has been recorded that will be helpful to telling the history of the object. And provenance is a fancy word for the origin and history of the object and who created it, who owned it, who used it, and where that happened. I go to the collection database, step number 2, and enter all of this information, indicating that the artifact was accepted into the collection, and in that way a unique tracking number is assigned and a corresponding file is created. Number 3, the unique number that is applied to the object is, it begins with the year of the donation, the number of the donation within that year, the number of objects within that donation, and finally, any parts of the object, if it's something that's made up of different pieces. For example, if we had a tea set and the pieces became separated, we would be able to reunite them by matching the numbers. Number 4, I set out the object and take a catalog form and my tools of the trade, which are a tape measure, a pencil, and maybe a magnifying lens to look at some details. Then I record all the identifying characteristics, measurements, signs of how the object was used, the known history of its creation and use, and additional links to themes, related artifacts in the collection, local sites and people, all to make future research clear and easy. Number 5, the object is photographed from all angles, including any special details. Number 6, all paper files are scanned, and now we've created a digital package, including all of the information to document the artifact. This is entered into the collection database, and in that way we can easily find that artifact in storage, and we can do much of future research without having to handle the artifact unnecessarily, which can lead to damage. Also, because we have this database, the artifacts can be viewed and searched through the museum's website from anywhere in the world, which is really great. So if this is something that sounds interesting to you, this whole process, you can help out too. If you see something on the database that you know more information about, there is a link to submit questions or comments. If you have a family history or a biography that the database doesn't have, you can submit that to the museum for the research files. And since this is a public museum, everything is accessible for everyone to learn from together. During the COVID-19 pandemic that began to affect the city of Niagara Falls in the spring of this year, the Niagara Falls Museums requested donations from the public of physical or digital objects to help remember what life was like during quarantine. Young people were specifically asked to make something based on their own experiences and donate to the museum. And a worksheet was provided to help participants formulate ideas. Emma Keltos submitted a documentary work consisting of 3 bottles filled with different colors of sand to represent feelings about various aspects of quarantine, as well as a written description. She wrote, "I made sand jars to describe my life in quarantine. I used different colors of sand. Light pink sand means missing people and things. Light purple sand means bored. Hot pink sand means happy, joyful, and fun. And white sand means stressed. I filled 3 glass jars with sand. 1 jar represents family, 1 represents online school, and lastly, 1 represents my quarantine life." In answer to the questions provided by the museum, Emma responded in the following ways. How has your life changed? My life has changed a lot, going from having parties and sleepovers to seeing them, friends, on screen. Being able to go to the mall, to waiting outside in a long line, physical distancing, and only allowed to buy 1 pack of toilet paper at grocery stores. My life has also changed by going to parks to play with family and friends to not being able to go to parks at all. I can't even go to school or after school activities. I hope that things change back to normal soon. What is it like to be homeschooled? Being homeschooled is different. At first it was fun and cool, but now the whole thing is stressful. I'm stressed almost every day about schoolwork. Being truthful, I think that there are too many things due on the same day. I try to get it all done on time, but sometimes I can't get it all done. I do have a lot of things that I have to do and help my family, and that takes time. What are you going to do first when this is all over? The first thing I'm going to do is have a sleepover with my friends and hug each other. And then I will go to Williams and get what I've been craving, a build-a-bowl salad with a mango iced tea. What are you most thankful for? I'm most thankful for my family and friends and that they're well and safe during this quarantine. How are you staying connected with friends and family? I'm staying connected by the internet and house drive-bys and porch drop-offs, having Zoom calls and FaceTimes, and just texting is staying connected. What are you doing for fun? For fun, I play board games, draw, color. I love to do crafts and read books. I also love to garden and watch YouTube too. I love to take my cat on his leash and harness and take him outside. Most important, spending time with my family. Next, we have a documentary work by Andrew Barr. The donation form reads, when the COVID-19 quarantine started, Andrew began keeping a journal about how life was changing and the activities we were still able to do. The journal continued as quarantine got stricter and finally began to loosen. Inside his Minions notebook, Andrew spent a lot of time and care to pencil in his thoughts and illustrate them with pencil, crayon drawings, photographs, and printed images. The journal was begun on March 12, 2020, and continued to the start of Stage 2 in Niagara Falls. Andrew included a helpful message: let your faith be stronger than fear. He did exercises each day, played skill-building games, took part in the care of his household by helping with cooking, made art and shared it with his community, and was inspired by the hopeful messages of others. Andrew has a daily routine all planned out and learned about actions that he can do to stay healthy. Some of his family plans had to change, but they found some great creative activities to do together at home. And of course, there was a lot of schoolwork too. So these are examples of objects collected in the moment as history was being made, because history is now, as we found through this unique time. The following are a few examples of objects collected in a way that you might be more familiar with, artifacts that were collected well after their time of use. These two shiny brass whistles are from the electric trolley that ran along the top of the Niagara River Gorge between Queenston and Chippewa from 1893 to 1932. The whistles are said to have been salvaged from the trolley before it was sent for scrap. The donor created a display mount for them using plumbing pipe and a wooden base. This railway served the Niagara Falls community with low fares at 10 cents for adults and 5 cents for children. Commuter tickets were also available, and many stops were made along the way, hooking up with lines to the United States. There were enclosed cars and also open cars in the summer months. Either end was serviced by ships taking visitors home or to further places, and the line served thousands of people on weekends. The whistle was removed in late 1932 after service on the line ended and before the cars were sent to the scrapyard. George Welsh was a boy at the time and salvaged the whistles when he lived on May Avenue, not far from the rail yard where the cars had gone before their transfer to the scrapyard. George made a base out of wood and plumbing pipe on which to display the whistles. Many years later, George left the object to someone through his will, and that person donated to the Niagara Falls museums. And lastly, we have a blue, white, and yellow banner with a chevron design at the bottom. It's very large and all laid out. We could definitely use this to demonstrate distancing. The fabrics used are canvas, a silky fabric, and felt, so there's a lot of texture to this object. The cutout felt letters read Flyers Junior A, OHA Champions 1968, and there's an image of a trophy in the center. This banner once hung way high up inside Memorial Arena on Center Street. This is where the Niagara Falls Flyers hockey teams played. The arena hosted multiple games played in the Memorial Cup in 1968. The Niagara Falls Flyers were in fact two junior ice hockey franchises that played in the top tier in the Ontario Hockey Association. The first Junior A team existed from 1960 until 1972, and the second in Tier 1 Junior A existed from 1976 until 1982. The teams were owned by the Ems family and were relocated to Niagara Falls from outside the city. The Niagara Falls Flyers are one of the few clubs to win multiple Memorial Cup championships, and they were repeat champions in two different home cities, Barrie and Niagara Falls, winning twice in each city. They also won the J. Ross Robertson Cup 3 times, each in Barrie and Niagara Falls. The Flyers finished first overall in 1963 and 1965 during the regular season to win the Hamilton Spectator Trophy. The second Niagara Falls Flyers team also won the Western Conference Ems Trophy in the 1978-1979 playoffs. Thank you for joining this edition of the behind the scenes tour at the Niagara Falls History Museum. I hope you'll join me again next time, whether virtually or hopefully in person. If you have any special requests for things that you would like to see, please drop us a line at the museum. Thank you again for joining. Keep safe, and I'll see you again next time.